watching my grandma make the kaya is, you know, how kids like licking the wooden spoon when moms kind of do their creaming for cakes and things like that. And that's what we do when my grandma does the kaya. When she stirs and when it's finally done and it's cool enough for her to bottle the jam, whatever is left sticking in the bowl or on the wooden spoon or whatever she used for stirring the kaya, we kids will sort of run to see who gets to the wooden spoon and the bowl first, so that we can stick our fingers into it and lick the spoon and things like that, which we did as kids. Yeah, so that was the memories we have. What we need, the proportion is like a cup of egg to 2 cups of sugar. So it may sound like it's very sweet and sugary, but that's, as I was saying, we use this as a jam, and so it's once it's cooked, it's actually not as sugary as it sounds. So what I'll do is I'll probably get from one lot of eggs, like the 12 eggs, I'll probably have at least 3 cups, which means I'll need 6 cups of sugar at least. And this is what I'm going to do. I'll have the 6 cups of sugar, very full cups. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, of course, if you're not going to do like cook as much as I'm doing, you can half or even quarter the amount of ingredients to make a smaller portion if you're just doing it for the family. But usually when I do, I'll do a bigger portion as well, because I'll end up giving it, you know, to the family, to Casper and Sharon or Paul. And then the next thing I'll do is I'll mix in 2 sachets of coconut cream powder. They come in different brands, but it doesn't really matter which brand you use. I usually use the Kara, but there's the Yeow brand and the Kara and some others, but I stick to the Kara or the Yeow mainly. So what you do is you pour the coconut cream powder into there. Again, if you're doing half the lot, you just use 1 bag, because I'm doing 2 lots. I mean a full 12 eggs. I'm using 2 lots. The reason why I'm putting that into the sugar is because sometimes you see they come in little lumps, and you can actually break it down with the sugar when you mix it properly before you put the liquid like the eggs and the cream in, so that it won't be lumpy. Because once you put the liquid in, and if you don't get rid of the lumps before you pour the liquid in, and you'll find that you have problems trying to break down the lumps when in the liquid. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll give it a good mix, the coconut cream powder and the sugar. And while I'm doing it, as you can see, I'm sort of trying to break up the lumps and mix it well with the sugar. Out of this lot, I get at least 4 tubs. I'll show you the size of the tubs afterwards. At least 4 to 5 tubs of jam out of this lot. Okay, so as you've seen earlier, I've put in 6 cups of sugar, which means we have to have at least 3 cups of eggs. Alright, it's 1 portion of eggs to 2 portions of sugar. I'm using actually my hands to mix the eggs into the sugar mixture because we have to actually have the sugar dissolve, and using your hand is a better way because of the warmth of your hands. It helps the sugar dissolve a little bit faster, especially in this cold weather. You can mix it with a wooden spoon, but yeah, just use your hands is a much better way, and you can actually feel as the sugar dissolves that you don't have the grainy feel in your hands. Then you know that the sugar's kind of pretty much dissolved. So you just do that. Now don't whisk it or beat it because you don't want it foamy. So you just have to gently stir it until the sugar's melted or dissolved. And this jam, although it's made of eggs, it actually has a very long shelf life if you cook it properly, the right way, the traditional way, because of the length of the cooking, and also once it's cool and you put it in jars or tubs and you keep it in the refrigerator, it keeps really well for about 4 or 5 months and still good. Especially in winter, like weather like this, when it's still quite cool. So now what I'm doing is, it feels like the sugar is almost dissolved, well, practically dissolved. I can't feel any grain anymore, so it's been dissolved pretty well. So this is now the time when you add the coconut cream. I've measured up a cup here, and the proportion will be like half a cup to every cup of eggs. So it's half of, which means we need 1.5 cup of coconut cream to 3 cups of eggs and 6 cups of sugar. So it's almost like doubling up each time. 1.5 to 3, 3 to 6. Okay, so now I'll pour the 1 cup in, and then I'll do another half cup in a little while. I'll do another half cup. Okay, and can see the cream is actually pretty thick. It's almost like the fresh cream consistency. And again, you use your hands to mix that through. Even as is, you can see it's actually a very nice thick creamy consistency. the next step is, you see, when this bowl, get a deep bowl, okay? Because you actually have to sit it in hot water to steam the jam. And this is the bowl that I've put the knotted up pandanus leaves, okay? And you put the sieve over it, and you pour the egg mixture to strain it, just so to get rid of any little bits and pieces that might still not be like, you know, like the in case there are just little lumps of the coconut powder that's not broken up, and also in case where quite often when you put sugar into eggs, the egg yolks, if they are not broken down straight away, tends to turn kind of jelly-like with the sugar together. So this is just so that you get rid of that, and you end up with a nice creamy jam, instead of having a creamy jam, no doubt, but still with little bits and pieces floating around, and you don't want that. You try to avoid having that. So that's it. Then you see all the bits that's left behind, the egg yolks and things in the sieve. This is what you want to get rid of. Okay? You can see I've prepared a saucepan, a deep saucepan with water in it, and I've put, the water has got to be just very gently kind of not boiling and bubbly, but what's gentle roll of the water. Okay, and then what we do is, this is just something that we do just so that there won't be so much knocking of the bowl on this metal, on the base of this metal, or this steel saucepan. And then what we do is we sit it there, like having the water like maybe about 3 centimeters from the top of the bowl, so that when should it be bubbling too much, that it won't flow into the jam. Okay, but it really shouldn't bubble that much if you have it just very gentle. And this is an electric stove, and I have it at 3, temperature number 3. Okay, and I might just increase it to 4 and just let it start bubbling afterwards. And now the next thing I'll do is I have to get something to cover it up. I'm using just a plate to cover it up, but before I do that, I get a clean tea towel and wrap the plate with the tea towel to prevent the water from the condensation to fall into the jam. So this is what I do. I just knot that in the center. Okay, and this is what we do. We just cover that up, and it goes on top, and we just steam that as it's and give it a stir every 15 minutes or so for about 2.5 hours to 3 hours. It's a long process, but that's what makes it keep really well for like 3 to 4 months or even 5 months, just in refrigeration. And even if in cold weather like this, sometimes it keeps well even without refrigeration for at least 2 months in cold weather like this. Okay, that's it. So we just give it a stir every 15 minutes or so, just so that it won't curdle, that the heat is mixed. Right, so now I'm giving the jam a first stir. I've left it for longer than 15 minutes this first time around because it went in cold, so it will take a little bit longer to warm up. But once it's warmed up thoroughly, after a few stirs, then you'll find that you probably need to stir it a little bit more frequently. That's all. So you just keep stirring it every 15 minutes or so, and then you'll see that it will start to thicken after a while. It's almost like, you can call this a steam bath, or some people actually do it in double boilers. Yeah, but it's almost like a bain-marie thing. This way you do it. It's like a bain-marie. Then back with the lid. That's it. Then we keep that cooking for another 15 minutes or so, and then give it another stir, and that continues till it's fully cooked in about 2.5 hours. See, it's starting to thicken, becoming a bit sticky. And of course, even when it's ready, it won't be really like sugary, sticky when it's still hot. You've got to let it cool down, then it becomes really more kind of a pasty, sticky consistency, whereas when it's hot, it can still appear to be a bit runny. You have to wait till it cools down. But as it is, you see, it's starting to really thicken. And the pandanus leaf is giving it a slightly greenish tinge color. It needs a good 2.5 hours to 3 hours for it to be really good, and for it to really have a longer shelf life. You've got to cook it longer. Okay, the kaya's all done. Now, see how consistency? It looks like it's still a bit runny, but once it cools down, it'll become a lot thicker. It will set like a bit, like a soft jelly. That's it. It's turned out really well too. Very smooth. You see how it sticks to my finger? See how it sticks to my finger? Along this, see? When it's cool, it'll be like that. It won't be runny. This is just the bit that's stuck along the sides as I stir. So it's a bit thicker.